All right, so we had a man email a while back. Let's say his name's Chris. And he had wrote in about a lot of stuff going on around his home, where he lived. Where he grew up. And I marked his email as look into because he's left a phone number, wanted to talk about it, so it'd be easier. So Sarah got a hold of him, lined it up, teed it up, and all I got to do is give him a phone call here and see what he's got to say. So, here we go.
Hello.
I got you.
Alrighty, sir.
That's
So
interesting.
how is everything over there in beautiful British Columbia today?
Well, let me tell you what. Not too bad. A little cloudy, a little drizzly, and I'm peeled off some more frickin' siding where the stain had a mishap last year, and I got a thickness plane it all off, board by board, and then restain it and put it back on.
Oh.
So that's what I
just paint it with used oil.
No, it went. There's three. The stain that we used went 3 shades of dog shit. It just sucks ass. So no, there's no way. I know, and it's fur. So anyway, it's expensive, and I had to take it all off and try to figure out what the f to do with it. So then I thought, screw sanding all this shit. I'm gonna buy a thickness planer. Give that a go. Bingo, perfect.
There you go. There you go.
But it's just.
Well, there's several guys over here where what we do is we take used oil. You know, we take just try not to take straight up old nasty diesel oil, but you kind of mix it with, kind of make a little lighter shade and just paint it right on your buildings.
No shit. How's that turn out?
Turns out excellent.
No way. Huh. I'll have to try that out on something.
Well, because the oil repels the water, and as long as you got a roof to keep it covered, you know, it works pretty good.
Huh?
A lot of people are scared to do it because it's used oil and they're all afraid of it. But, you know,
whatever.
Reuse, recycle, you know.
Yeah.
You know, shit that we've always done because we had to make do with what we had. Nobody's ever been rich, and none of my friends, well, I shouldn't say that. I have some friends that have been very wealthy, but they don't want you to know that they're wealthy, and they use used oil versus going down and buying stain because it's cheaper.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, those
the nice kind of wealthy people.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, well, we make do with what we got here. But the last thing that I covered with used motor oil was the cat.
It's funny you say that. I was changing oil this morning, and I've got some cats, and I call them Democrats. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Because if you keep them hungry, they happen to be useful, but they're always begging for something. So I just call them Democrats. Well, we got these little shittins running around, and this little noisy shit come over, and well, its nickname today became Grease Tail. So yeah, you can just imagine about why.
Well, that's not bad. Well, the oil catching pan under the truck. When you change oil. So I left it full because I was going to use that shit for something. I put it on top of the prawn traps, hidden back in the shop next to my other boat. And then I was out fishing, guiding, and Sarah called freaking out because the cat came in. The cat jumped into that oil pan.
Jumped into it?
Yeah. And then it sprayed, it splashed.
Like jumped in and rolled around?
No, it just jumped up thinking it was landing on top of the prawn traps. And it landed in the oil.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. Then it got covered, and then it went all over the house, on the patio furniture, in the house, and on the couch. Right? I know. I was sitting on the deck.
Try not to laugh as she's crying on the other end of the phone.
Right? I know. I was sitting on the deck with my buddies out at the end of guiding. We're all pissing our pants laughing, trying not to, but holy shit. Whoops.
Because the reality is you can't do a damn thing about it, so you might as well laugh about it.
Yeah, right? Happened. Well, the cat was well lubed after that anyway.
It reminds me of a story of this guy's dog who used to go and eat grease out of his grease gun, so like a little bit on the tip.
Oh my God.
Well, he had a tube of grease, and he was crawling underneath grease, and something had the tube sitting there. Went back, he rolled over to grab it and couldn't find it. Well, then he realized the dog had run off with it. By the time that he wandered over there to see what the dog, to get it back from the dog had cleaned it out.
No way. And he's still alive.
Yes, way. Yes, way. So you can imagine just how lubed that dog was for the next few days.
Holy shit.
Take off to run and then just slide right out of it.
Crazy. Isn't that crazy he didn't die?
What's that?
It's crazy he didn't die.
Yeah, well, exactly. I'm surprised it lived, but farm dogs just happen to be tougher. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, true. I had another buddy. His dog punctured and ate a whole shit pile of brake fluid.
Oh.
That sucker's stopping a dime after that.
How the hell would it eat? Oh my! I can't imagine brake fluid. That stuff's nasty just to smell.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, so what do you got going on over there?
Well, let's see here. Where do you want to start?
Oh, hell, I'm all about hearing whatever you got. Whatever you want to share with the people, man. Let her rip.
Oh, good Lord. Well,
let me start. So do you live rurally?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So if you're recording this, I guess I'll start here so that we're over the friendly part. So I'm not going to give you exact things, so you don't have to edit them out.
That's fine.
Yes. So if you want to hear, so tell you what, before you record, yes, I live fairly rurally. We got a town that is the closest one is like 6 miles away, and it's a bar, not gas station anymore. It's a bar, grocery store, and the post office is in the grocery store now.
Cool.
And we are comprised of mostly agricultural streams. We got a lot of streams and creeks, rivers around here. So there's a lot of wood lots. So the ground is real broken up. It's not one big contiguous forest, but it's also not necessarily one big farm field. Although with that said, my parents' farm, I call it North Dakota, because if you want to see what it's like in North Dakota, you go there, and the wind just blows like you are in North Dakota. But the nearest fence line over there is a couple miles away, 3 miles. And then if you go other parts of the state, it gets, it varies a lot. Just Michigan is a very diverse state.
Right. Have you got any mountains there? Where you are?
No, the only mountain, the closest mountain we've got is the landfill. And that is probably, I don't know, another 300 foot above normal elevation-ish.
Oh, wow.
Our largest features are because of the rivers, down cutting.
Oh, yeah. What kind of timber?
So you'll have, like 75 foot high walls coming off of the river where it's just a straight drop, how it's been carved in for years, and
right.
Just makes these great big flood deltas. Because see, what happened is the glacier went across and it pushed everything across here pretty flat.
Oh yeah, cool.
Glacier is just a big asshole bulldozer, and it just it shoves everything.
Yeah,
so we don't have any mountains around here.
What kind of timber is there?
A lot of, we got oak trees, maple trees, a lot of hardwoods. Your beeches. We had ash until the Japanese ash borer come through and devastated everything.
Oh.
So a lot of, at this area, and pine trees, and so we're a mix of both hardwood and softwood. A lot of nice mature trees are growing up around here, because this area, it was completely logged off back in the mid 1800s, roughly, is when they were coming through and just leveling everything. They were taking all kinds of timber. So a lot of these trees they are what you would call second growth, so they've survived and grown back up.
Right.
I've got oak trees around me that are, right here on my property, that are 6 foot across.
Oh, okay.
Now, granted, they're just a wolf oak that needs to be cut down because they're past their maturity, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Have you got any big
pine trees?
You got any big fir or big cedar?
Nope. Cedar takes place farther north of here. There is some small cedar swamps just north of me, a couple hours. As you get farther north in the state, and then you get up in the UP, and and that is a completely different world up there. You've got, mountains and cedars, and, that's a different world.
Yeah, I got friends up there, the hunting cabin in the UP.
Where at? Roughly-ish.
Oh, God, I don't know. I mean, they're from Howell, Michigan? Houle? Howell?
It's pronounced howl, like a dog howling.
Yeah, well, they're from Howell. All I know is they got a cabin up in the UP.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of guys get cabins up there. Yeah, Howell is a different area, too. That's, a little more swampy. I used to live down over that way, and years ago I did a bunch of work when I moved dirt back in there, and we did subdivisions and all kinds of stuff to get back into some of these pretty remote areas. And, well, Howell is, there still is KKK clans running around over there. So
really?
It's a little bit rough.
No way.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, way.
Well, my friends definitely. My friends aren't members of that club, but they do a lot of thermal hunting at nighttime for coyotes.
Oh yes. I got a buddy of mine, and he does the same thing. He hunts a bunch of yotes. There's a lot of them around here. Unfortunately, as these guys have been thinning out the predators, the deer have been taken off. So now we've got white-tailed deer that, well, you couldn't go and swing a dead cat without hitting 6 of them.
Oh, wow. Holy cow.
Oh, they're everywhere. We've got nuisance blocks. We've got nuisance block permits, and, it's nothing to have 30 or 40 in a little field.
Wow.
And they're just every night, the neighbor, most of our area is laid out in a grid sections, and, the neighbor in the same section that I'm in, he killed like 80 deer last year.
Oh my God.
And you wouldn't know, and you wouldn't even know that he killed 80 deer.
Wow, crazy.
Rumor had it that another neighbor a couple miles away, he killed like 300 deer.
Holy shit.
Yes.
Need some of those.
The downside is everybody's freezers are full, so they end up just dumping a bunch of it. They're not supposed to, but when it's 90 degrees and everybody's freezers are full, the buzzards got to eat.
Well, I'm going to have to move a couple of those wolf packs from the UP down there.
No, you can keep those damn things.
Yeah, no kidding. So, do you hunt?
I want nothing to do with those. A little bit. It's more for a predator. I don't really have the opportunity to go out and just sit in a deer stand for hours on end. I wish I could, but too busy working, I guess.
Oh yeah. So what do you do for work? Not exactly, but I mean, if this is in relation to what you've been experiencing over there.
Well, I am let's see here. How do I want to phrase this?
Well, are you working in the bush?
My parents' farm, my grandparents' farm. So we have a very strong agricultural background, and yes, I still participate with them.
Oh yeah.
But I went off on a different path because the ag economy just it was real rough back in the 80s, and I just kind of took a different path. So I am a contractor, for lack of better words.
All right, there you go.
And so my work takes me into a lot of right-of-way stuff.
Oh, there you go.
Different avenues where, a lot of places where people haven't been in a while, and,
all right.
Walking to and from my machine is a common thing that I have to do. It's
Gotcha.
not uncommon to go and walk a couple hours to go and get to it.
Gotcha.
I'll be in the middle of a section following a river, and when I say a section, it's not just a mile by mile. It could be because the rivers break things up. I mean, I've had to go and take a duck boat 6 miles to get to my machine before.
When do you get your machine out? When it freezes up?
Sometimes when you put it in and you work it through, and you can jump out on landowner property and sneak in somewhere. And there is ways.
Right.
There is ways.
So I guess
but you're carrying in your fuel, you're carrying in your supplies, and if you break, you're carrying in spare parts. And
wow.
So the nature of my work is such that I am very special. I joke that my window was the cleanest one on the bus.
All right. Which Which,
the nature of my work is not normal, nor is it simple. It is special. I mean, I could be putting trees in a river. I could be pulling trees out of a river.
right on.
And anything and everything in between.
Cool. So this probably leads into what you've been experiencing.
Well, that's just it. And where I live, looking back, let me back up here. This stuff has been going on most of my life. I just didn't realize what all was happening. So it's kind of like the more you know, and it's just this path that's just never ending, that you're always learning and seeing and experiencing more. And then you sit back and you're laying in bed at night and try not to think about this stuff. You're thinking about something else, but all of a sudden it just hits you like a sack of potatoes. And you go, when I was 6 years old and there was something there, and I thought that I was just scared. No, there was something there. There legitimately was something there. I mean, I've been shadow stalked, what people want to call shadow stalking, for a lot. I just was too stupid to realize it, or I just ignore it anymore. But they'll you step, they step, you stop, and they step again, or you hear something just and you can't see anything. Our timber, because we don't have the hills, because we're pretty flat, you can see 50 or 100 feet, and there's something that you hear that it literally is 25 feet from you.
Crazy.
And you're looking, and there is nothing there. Nothing.
So bizarre.
Not a squirrel. And the weird part is a lot of the sounds stop. It just gets weird sound. They're just like dead sound, for lack of better words.
So, have you ever experienced the absolute terror?
Yes, absolutely, I did.
How'd that happen?
It's funny you say that as it's coming back to me. And I'm not saying this just to try to sound, special, or trying to make this.
No, don't worry about it.
What you hear is what I am. What you hear is what I am.
Oh, good, man.
Shit up. I don't have to. There is no reason to. It is what it is. I'm that kind of person.
That's why we're here.
I hit, years ago, a 15-inch high-pressure gas main with a piece of equipment.
Uh-oh.
Right? This is the stuff where, we're looking at 500-600 PSI.
Right.
People die from this stuff all the time. I would rather go through that experience 6 more times than have to go through this again.
Really?
Yes. And I probably lost a year of my life that day when I hit that gas main. It was one of these deals where people were not doing their job, and I knew that there was a main in the area, but didn't know exactly where, because my instructions were, well, it's over there. Well, I was near it, but I wasn't where they said that it was. So when it come, it was a total surprise. Oh yeah. Right. Nothing blew up, nothing caught fire, but in the back of your mind, you knew that all that stuff was very, very possible.
Sure. So what about the terror? What happened the very first time you experienced that absolute terror? What happened then?
Well, so I had hay in a hip roof barn, and these barns around here, a lot of them have got a lower story, so they're not like a shed where it's all ground floor. So what they would do is you would have your lower level is where you put your livestock in, like cows, horses, sheep, whatever, pigs. Yeah. Typically, it was cattle and horses that were stored in them. So you'd have stalls underneath there. You'd milk your cows in there, and then you stored your hay up above.
Gotcha.
And some of these barns, they were backed up to banks, so you could drive into the top. But because we're so flat, you had to move a lot of dirt to do that. So a lot of these barns, they just had a full upper story, and you would have to have like a hay elevator to put it up in there, or the old timers, they would use hay forks and sling it up in there with ropes and drag it in. So it's not something that you're just going to walk into. Well, this particular barn, it was a tight sealed barn. They quit milking cows in it probably 20, 30 years earlier. And we were renting their farm, so I was able to go and store my hay in there. Nice, clean, dry, big, beautiful barn. Tight. tight. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of coons in there, and they can climb in anything.
Right.
So that's how tight this barn was. To get into this hayloft, you had to go into the milk house, which is where they stored the milk. So you would have a door, and all these doors, they were always automatically closing because that was part of keeping the flies out of the milk, and you kind of see the sterilization here. And then you'd go into the main section where the cows were, so there was another door there. And then to get up into the hayloft, you would go up a ladder, and there was a trap door, and I always kept it closed because they kept it closed, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I always kept it closed. So I had to go through 3 doors to get into it. And so you go up in the barn, and we're going to back up here a little bit so I can give a little background. Remember what I said about loose hay up in there?
Yep.
Well, on one side, we still had some loose hay up there. So there was 2 piles of loose hay on one side of the barn, and then on the other side, and this was all one big open area that was sealed off. So the doors, they all had latches, and they were all tight. Remember, the coons weren't even in there. So, which makes me question why there wasn't coons in a minute. But every once in a while, I would get this funny smell at first. And it was kind of like this skunk. Well, if you've been around these things, you know that the smell is like a skunk, but it's not. They have a very distinct odor. And you can pick it up once you figure out what you're dealing with. And so this smell, it'd be there and it wouldn't be there. Well, it was dark, no lights. I had I had an old dim flashlight, and I just kind of scanned around real quick just to see what, because you always got this feeling there was something up there. And the thing that I didn't realize at the time was sometimes there'd be 3 piles of hay, and sometimes there'd be 2 piles of hay.
How big?
And finally, it got the best of me, and I walked over there one day when I had the barn doors open. It was nice light. And I'm like, there's only 2 piles of hay over here. Why am I seeing 3? And you'd only see the 3rd pile whenever you would get that smell. This must have happened, oh, good God, 12 times at least. And there's no access to get into here. Now, they had poked a hole on the backside 30 feet off the ground where they stuck a hay elevator in, but there was no way to get up in there other than if something were to climb.
How big were the piles of hay?
What?
Did you get that? How big were the piles of hay?
How big were the piles of hay?
Yeah.
Oh, they were, I don't know, 12 feet high, give or take.
3 different 12-foot high piles of hay, and sometimes there's only 2, sometimes 3?
That is correct.
Wow.
So the 2 were piles of hay. The third one was not a pile of hay.
Oh.
The third one was not a pile of hay. Remember the smell.
What the hell?
So this pile doesn't come and go. It's supposed to always be there. Hay just doesn't move on its own. And the flashlights were dim, and it was dark whenever it happened. Well, it was kind of that darker color, kind of like a roan horse almost, and you just kind of pick up that, and you're just like, yeah, okay. And I did this a couple, 3 times. Now, mind you, I was probably 17 at the time-ish.
Wow.
I had known about these hairy men, but it was in books that you got at the dime store, and you're like, yeah, whatever. So this was not anywhere in the thought process. Nothing.
How do you?
This went on.
How do you think it got in the barn?
Well, this is where I came to the conclusion a long time ago that once I realized what it was, I think that it's a spirit that can take physical form.
Right.
I really think that it's a spirit that can take physical form. As humans, we want to say, this is a stick, this is a tree, this is a rock. We want to put labels on stuff.
Yeah.
So my label is, it's a spirit that can take physical form. It just explains to me anything that doesn't want to make sense to you. I don't know if that's making sense to anybody, but to me, that's what helps me figure this out, and it helps me to deal with it.
Gotcha. Did you, on that note, sorry, one quick question. Did you ever see any kind of lights around the barn or in the barn or in the forest around there?
No, but I did have eyes that lit up, though. So one of these nights that I'm looking at this haystack, and that shouldn't be there, because it's one of these things, and I had eye shine, and I'm looking at it, and I glance back, and I look back again, and mind you, these flashlights were just these dim wadded things that would almost light up, with the strength of about 6 or 7 matches. And
sure.
The eye shine, and I'm like, and I'm going, well, that's too wide to be a coon.
Ooh.
And something in my head said, it's just a coon. So as I'm thinking, going, well, that's not a coon, something put a thought in my head that said, nope, it's just a coon. And like, okay, it's just a coon. And I went on about, and I grabbed my hay, threw it out of the barn. I'd come back another time. And that's when I started looking and trying to figure out what is going on over here, because this doesn't make sense. Well, there is this hole where they stuck a hay elevator in that's about, 25 feet off the ground, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
Not a very big hole, just enough to put a hay elevator in and to fit a bale of hay through.
Right.
So not real big. And I still remember looking there, and there was some hair on the side of it. That was a very long strand of hair.
No way.
Didn't really match anything that I knew. But remember, I didn't put too much thought into any of this stuff. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. This is just weird. And that's where I say, looking back, I've had so many experiences as a kid and never realized what it was.
Wow. What color was the eyes?
It was like a yellowish green.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't anything scary. So this went on, like I said, the eye shine and all these times, all the smells. Hey, there's an extra pile of hay. And it was when I started investigating, well, why is there another pile? Then it started changing. It's like almost something was smart enough to figure out that I was figuring something out. And over the years, I've kind of thought, well, maybe it was injured, so it was just hanging out there. I don't know. And none of this stuff makes sense. So trying to make sense of something, I'm sorry, none of this stuff makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just, I shake my head if I try to go and think about it too hard.
Gotcha. So how long did the barn episodes go on for?
Probably 6 months.
Wow.
4 months, 6 months, something like that.
What time of year?
Mind you, this has been a long time ago, so I'm kind of vague on the exact details. I'm
Gotcha.
sorry if I kind of
That's all right.
am fluttering here a little bit.
That's fine.
I don't think about some of these things all the time.
Yeah. I get it.
This took place late in the year.
Okay. Autumn, fall.
Yeah, so it would have been like late summer into fall, early winter.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because I was going to college at the time, and so that started up in the fall. So how this all peaked is sometimes I was a little lazy because I was going to school and had a lot of stuff going on. So I wouldn't always go and bring over a week's worth of hay at a time. Sometimes I just grab a couple days, and I needed hay in the middle of the week, so I stopped over there to grab hay to go and feed my livestock. And I needed 2 bales to go and do chores. As soon as I pulled in that yard and pulled up near the barn, it was like, I don't want to get out of the pickup. I just, this dread of wanting to go into the barn. I mean, I was a little rattled in the barn at night because something wasn't right, but I could never figure it out.
No doubt.
But when I pulled up, I was like, I really don't want to go in here.
Really?
Yes. I walked up to the first door to open it, and it got stronger. I went to the milk house. I opened the second door, and it was stronger yet. I was walking underneath the hay mow because the bottom was open, And as I was walking over to the ladder to go up to the trap door to get up into the mouth, when I grabbed the first rung, it was like, oh my God, nope, nope. And I kept going, I gotta feed animals. So I'm talking out loud to myself, which I do all the time because, as long as you don't have an argument with yourself and lose, you can talk to yourself all the time.
True.
But so I'm telling myself, you just got to get 2 bales. You got to go up the ladder. You just got to do this. And I'm talking out loud because nobody's around me, so who cares? And I willed myself to go up that ladder, and I pushed that door open. When I pushed that door open, I had to walk around the side. And I could hear something kind of shifting as I'm going up the ladder.
No.
I just thought it was just my imagination getting the best of me. Oh, no. It was something was standing right alongside of me. When I opened that door, I didn't shine my flashlight. I didn't want to see. I could smell, I could feel, I could hear it breathing, I could feel it shuffling. I don't think I was but 5 or 10 feet away from it.
No way. Oh my God.
Yes, way. It's right there. It's in the dark. I'm going, I just need 2 bales of hay to feed. I was saying that out loud. I just need 2 bales of hay so I can feed. I walked over, and I never like throwing them down the ladder because they barely fit.
Yeah.
I jammed those 2 bales down the ladder as fast as I could. And mind you, the whole time, I'm just like, oh my, I just got to do this.
What the
I grabbed
hell?
the 1 bale, I went back, I got the next, and I slid down that ladder and closed that door just as fast as I could. And as soon as my feet hit the floor, the feeling subsided. It didn't go away, but it was nowhere near the level it was. So it was like at level 100 when I was up there. So when I slid down and I'm grabbing my 2 bales and walking back, it was probably down to like an 80. And then as I started working my way out, it kept dropping and it kept dropping. I got in the pickup and drove out, and it still was probably at like a 5 or 10. Was it because I was just on high alert or jittery or whatever? I don't know. But I'm going to tell you this much. I did not go back to that barn in the dark. And when I did, I had million power candle spotlights and everything else I started buying. I got myself a good mag flashlight so I could see. It probably took me 6 months to really go back into that barn. But I had to keep feeding, so I didn't have a choice in the matter. But I never went there in the dark. It was probably a year before I went back there in the dark again.
So, did you tell anybody?
No, because I didn't even know. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea what I was dealing with. I was just like, okay, well, that was fucking weird.
I guess that kind of makes sense, because if you don't know about these people at the time, and all you're familiar with is maybe possums or raccoons or whatever, I guess you wouldn't even dream for 1 second that it could be something odd. Crazy.
I mean, you knew that it wasn't a person, but it was like, well, nothing makes sense. I don't know anything. I'm just a dumb kid. I still am a dumb kid, but so fast forward here, probably 3, 4, 6 years later, something like that. I met this old guy, and he lived 2 hours east of me, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you read a story about the region, so this is like over by Flint area.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to give out too many details here, but
sure.
This is over by Flint, and you had read something that someone wrote in one time about this region, and this guy, this old guy, told me about his neighbor, and he milked cows, and he'd go into his milk house, and this was at the transition period where they still were using milk cans to get to the bulk tank or the dairy. I don't remember the exact details, because at the time I was like, I guess I really wasn't paying attention to the details that this old guy was telling me. But the gist of the story was, is his neighbor kept finding milk disappearing out of his bulk tank. So they did have lights. So one morning he reaches around the corner to turn the light switch on, and he grabbed a hold of a hairy arm.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Whoa.
He grabbed a hold of a hairy arm. He was standing where the light switch would be, and it was about 6-7 feet tall.
Ooh.
Kind of a skinny, juvenile-looking creature. You know, just a big hair-covered thing. And it went streaking out the door. The guy about shit his pants, and, well, the creature had a milk mustache. So,
Holy shit.
Nothing like getting caught red-handed.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I guess it died down and didn't have too many issues with him stealing milk once he caught it. But there was some other things that were taking place. And like I said, I wish that knowing what I know now, I would have asked a whole lot more questions. But at the time, so the conversation came up that I'm like, I think that I was in the barn with a Bigfoot one night. And the old guy turns to me and says, you probably were. And then he told me the story about his neighbor. So that's when I really started going and going, okay, am I really crazy? Did I make up this stuff? So not having any bearings, I went for years thinking, okay, I made this story up, and why did I make it up? Is my head just playing tricks on me? You know, am I arguing with myself and losing the argument here? Fast forward, you know, just kind of dwelling, you know, not really giving it a whole lot of thought process. We had bought a house, and, well, make a long story short, we had a house spirit.
Ooh.
And that's kind of what brought me back to going, okay, spirits actually are real. And that's about the time that there's a guy that was put out a series, and he used to go out in the woods and survive. I'll just say it. Survivor Man, Les Stroud.
Right.
He came out with his Finding Bigfoot stuff. You know, love the guy, hate the guy, whatever, I don't care. He got me thinking about a couple things.
Right.
And it kind of started me back in on the journey of, am I making this stuff up? Because at the same time, I've got other stuff that's happening to me.
Right.
And it really got me looking into this more and starting to research it. And it wasn't, I don't know, it was a few years later that I ended up finding your channel. So I've been listening to you ever since about 2020, the end of 19, somewhere in there.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that I love about what you do and these people that write in is it's just confirmation. It's like, no, I didn't make this stuff up. No, this stuff does happen. You know, you can't have 5,000 people making up the same exact story. That part baffles my mind to think that 5,000 people, without being coordinated, are going to make up the same story.
You imagine if I had that kind of power to persuade people to do the same shit? That'd be crazy.
Well, that's kind of where I'm going. The format that you use, it really fits into a lot of the way that I think.
Right.
I was taught to think for yourself. Don't let someone else tell you what to think.
Yeah.
Learn how to research stuff and learn to think for yourself.
Gotcha.
If your opinion differs than mine and you can give me a valid reason, we got zero issues. But if you're just going to go and bring up some talking point that someone else parroted, no, I got no time for you.
Right. Gotcha.
I'm sorry, I can't. My tolerance is stupid. It needs to be higher, but it's not very high because I deal with a lot of stupid on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets me in trouble.
We all do.
Oh, stupid just, yeah. So anyhow, so it got me thinking, and it got me digging, and it got me researching more. Well, at the same time that I'm starting to try to piece things together, I had a few other things happen, so it kind of went into a lull. So from the barn incident until the next one was probably, I don't know, I bet it was 15 years. before something had happened again.
Wow.
And I run heavy equipment, and I was in the middle of nowhere, and I was in a funny looking excavator, and I was working away, and this thing is able to go and stand up. Well, you know as well as I do that if someone stares at you long enough that you can feel it.
Yeah.
I kept getting that feeling, and I'm actually am in tune with it pretty good, which helps. So when I'm dealing with stupid and I'm working through a residential area, and I get these people who just want to watch because it's cool, which is fine, but the issue is I can't have them because I'm killing trees. I mean, I can kill these people without trying, so I got to be very careful where my debris is ejecting towards.
Yeah.
So I can't have someone come up underneath me because I'm not saying that I'm going to kill them, but there's a stick that can come off that will kill them if stars line up just right.
Yeah.
So we don't want those risks. Risk mitigation. Stay the fuck away. Everybody's happy.
No brainer.
Yeah, exactly. When you see something making trees disappear, stay back. Yeah. So usually these people are staring at me, and I've gotten really attuned to realizing when someone is around, which helps me tremendously in work.
Gotcha.
It saves me from lawsuits. It saves me from killing somebody.
Sure.
You get the idea.
Being aware.
I'm out here working. So I'm out working in the middle of nowhere, and I kept getting this feeling, and I kept looking around, Well, who's around here? Who's around? I kept spinning around, and I kept actually moving the machine up higher and higher. So I kept getting higher and higher, and I'm looking around, and it was starting to get the same feeling that I had in that barn. And I'm just going, I'm talking to myself, and, I reached over, and I had a couple bang sticks there in the cab with you, because, who wanders into the middle of nowhere with no way to defend themselves?
Yeah.
And I even put one in the pipe, because normally I don't have to, but, there was one there, and it kind of changed for a few minutes. And, but that feeling kept getting worse and worse. Normally I work until dark, but it was like 4 o'clock, and I go, you know what? I'm going to be out of here in about half an hour. And as soon as I said that, the feeling subsided slightly. It was still there, but it was slightly subsided. I couldn't wait to get out of that woods that night. And I come back the next day, there's nothing there. Oh, what the hell? And I asking the landowners, like, was anybody there? Anybody back there? Nope, nobody's around. Nobody should be around anywhere. And so this kind of got me back in on this, okay, what's out there? What's out there watching me? And that's when I started kind of thinking about some of this stuff. So, but this is where the more you see, the more you know kind of fits in.
Yep.
Then fast forward, there's been several other weird things, just these feelings and stuff like that, to the point where, well, last year, my family and I have had more experience with these things than we see deer.
Really?
Today. Oh, it got real bad here for a while, where it was nothing bad, but it was just like unnerving. It's kind of like, because it used to be seasonal, where they would come and go, and we'd kind of get a break in the winter, and then we weren't getting that break.
Really?
So, yes. So I'm kind of skipping around here a little bit. I'm sorry. So it
That's
might be hard for someone to follow, but it's kind of like, ooh, there's a shiny thing, so I got to go follow it. But so let's see here. Where do I want to jump to?
So this is going. So stuff's going on at home.
So okay. So the stuff going at home last fall, the last year and a half. In my family, there is 5 of us. I have one small kid, like 2nd, 3rd grade, 4th grade age range. And I've got a couple older ones, like high school, college range. And then there is my wife and myself. The oldest one has not seen or experienced anything, which is mind-blowing on its own. The youngest one has had trees shaken right next to him. I would put him him and I, we've got a great relationship. So a lot of times I'm putting him to sleep at night. So he's sitting there with me, and he's watching these things walk by the window. And he goes, "Dad, I seen something." Well, I am very, very careful on everybody to not let anybody jump to an answer or a conclusion. Describe it to me. How tall was it? How big was it? What time was it? Where was it at? How was it moving? Not trying to give them any descriptive words.
Right.
And he's spelling these things right out where, we had a 7-footer walking around the house, and he walked right by, and then I seen one a couple days later. I'm sitting there. I see a lot of this stuff out of the corners of my eye.
Right.
So my peripheral vision has always been pretty good. That's where I see the majority of this stuff at. Movements, things. So I'm sitting there eating breakfast, and right out of the corner of my eye, it walks by, and as I'm sitting there going, what the hell was that? And I'm just going down the list. There's someone out there. There's nothing there. You can't see anything. We've got a couple black bears floating around, but black bears don't walk like a person. Our deer is definitely not 7 feet tall. So the way that I determined height was I had my oldest go out there and hold his hand up. Okay, where is this point at? So we did this to go and judge height distance, so we could the same point where we seen it. So we're getting a very good feel. That's why I say we had a 7-footer, and because he's holding his hand up, right there at that spot, and you're able to measure it. So we're trying to go and quantify the stuff. We don't want to make anything up. We don't need to make things up, and to make it up just makes it just silly. But so we've had them circling around the house. But that one that walked by, at that moment that I'm trying to figure out what it is, the thought popped in my head. I was the one that you seen in the barn years ago.
What? No way.
And I'm just going, where the hell did that thought come from? I'm just trying to go and eat breakfast and stare at my phone to go and laugh at what my friends did the night before. I'm not thinking about this stuff. My mind is the farthest from that night in the barn. And all of a sudden that thought pops in my head, and I just go, well, that's weird.
Holy shit.
We have a lot of that's weird that's happened around here.
Yeah.
So my wife used to make fun of me. I told her about some of these things, and she used to make a lot of fun of me until she started experiencing things. She's hearing someone walking by but can't see anything. She's hollering out the door, "Hey, who's there? Can I help you?" And there's nothing there, and she hears them walking along. We had one time where she was walking up the lane, and we live in the middle of the woods. This is family property. I've been on this ground ever since I was probably about 5 years old. And my childhood was grab a stick, go out in the woods, and disappear. When it's dark, you might wander back in because you're hungry, but the parents didn't really care if we came back in at night, because they knew that we were around. We had the run of couple sections of ground, all the neighbors, nobody cared. We wandered everywhere. So I've got a pretty good lay of this ground. I know where bumps should be, where they aren't, where tree stumps are, where they've been cut off. So my poor wife is walking up the lane, and she's got a dog. We had a blue heeler, and it was walking with her. And this dog just went ape shit. Just right next to her, growling, hair standing up. I fear blue heelers. I don't fear Dobermans. I fear blue heelers. They are a quick, vicious, fast dog. Fast dog. If you've ever been attacked by a blue heeler, you'll know what I say.
Right.
I see these dogs move, and it's like, wow. We've got great Pyrenees and Paramas that are in with our sheep right now because of wild dogs, and there's other things too. But because we do have kitty cats that are floating around that we're not supposed to have, but the DNR lies. Yeah, they're all over. We've got black bear that they don't exist. But then when Facebook erupts, well, yeah, there's a couple been floating around. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. They've been around here for about 10 years now.
Yeah.
Finally admitting it. So we
Yeah.
got stuff around here.
For sure.
But this dog, and my wife is looking and can't see anything, and she hears it walking right alongside of her. She got scared, and from that time on, she never doubted. And she's been stalked a couple times. We were working in a field one night, moonlight, and I watched her coming across the field, and she's throwing the flashlight in the wood line. So she's throwing it out there on three separate occasions. And I'm going, well, that's odd, but whatever. I'm working. My youngest, he was with me, and we were getting some seed down on some soybeans before they dropped the leaves. And they were dropping that night, so I had to hurry up and get it done. So I'm walking beans. It's not something that's enjoyable by any stretch of the imagination. But we had full moon, so you could see. He's sitting there supplying me with seeds so I can walk the stuff on, and he goes, Dad, I just seen two of them. Well, you seen what? I seen two hairy men. He goes, one was bigger and one was shorter. One was kind of like a reddish color and one was blackish. I'm like going, oh, okay. Not wanting to doubt him, but not wanting to believe everything on face value.
Right.
So, and I was working, so I'm like, all right, yeah, whatever. You just stay right there, and you're fine, because he was in a cab where he was safe and happy. So my wife is walking along, and she keeps throwing the flashlight out. There was something along the woods walking along with her, and finally she goes, leave me alone. I'm just walking over there. And then it left her alone from that point on, that night. So here I've got two people that are seeing and experiencing things, and I was clueless to all this at that point in time. I didn't know anything was happening, and they're feet from me. So it's not like I see it all the time or hear it, but others with me are. So it's kind of...
What's up with that?
Patterns don't necessarily make sense. How's that?
No, not yet. Hopefully they will, but not yet.
Nothing really makes sense. This same field, I'm looking out there, and all of a sudden, I've got this big, wet-looking oak tree, which is very, very black, but it's only about, it's about 10, 12 feet tall, and it's massive. And I'm going, there's not an oak tree right there that should be that big. Mind you, I've been in this woods forever. I know where every stump is that someone cut off, and, every mushroom. And I'm going, that tree shouldn't be there. You look away, you look back, it's not there anymore. And it's not the sun going and throwing a shadow on it from a cloud, because this happens multiple times. So there'll be something big across the field looking at me, just watching, going, oh, okay, whatever. Here this fall, or here this winter, I was burning some brush, and I was sitting in the cab of a machine, and the little guy, he just has to go and be with Dad. So here it's dark, and I'm sorry, I skipped here a little bit. So it was dark, and I was tending my fire pile because I was trying to get it burned up. So I went back in the dark, and I was stirring up coals and trying to get it to burn down more. And then I hang out there for a couple hours, stir it again, and when the fire dies down where it's not going to spread, then I can go on inside and go to bed. So I'm walking down there, and across the creek, I see a couple eyes. All right, whatever, it's a deer. First you think it's a neighbor's yard light. No, there's no lights. We're down. Remember, our erosion is our hills are formed because we are eroding down. So when you're looking down, you're looking into a base, and there's nothing. You aren't getting lights coming in.
Right.
So you're looking down on the ground. So I see a couple sets of eyes across the creek, and didn't think too much of it, but kind of had a little bit of a creepy feeling. And I'm stacking my fire, and I'm sitting there, and my little guy comes down, and he jumps in the cab and spooks me. Because apparently I was on edge and didn't really realize it. So he jumps in the cab with me, promptly falls asleep. I wasn't but 20 feet from the fire, sitting in the cab, 20 feet from a fire, and this thing comes streaking right across, about 4 feet tall, give or take. Now, I figured that it was doing about 30 miles an hour, and the way I figured that out is I tried to hold my hand by a mailbox and try to judge that speed at which that I'm passing a known object.
Right.
So I could correlate it to be, about 25, 30 mile an hour, somewhere in that range. And so this thing streaks right across, and I go, that was weird. What was that? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? And then I feel something moving around me, and out of the corner of my eye, it had circled around the machine and was standing there looking at me in the cab.
No way.
And when I caught it out of the corner of my eye, I turned my head, and it was gone.
Shit.
Well, earlier in that year, I can count the number of times that I thought about these things in the middle of the night on one hand with almost all my fingers left over. I don't dream about this shit. I don't think about it. I really don't like to dwell on it. I'm there in the middle of the night and I'm dreaming. And in my dream, there was a female and a younger one. And the message was, there's going to be a younger one floating around here. And I woke up in the morning and I go, oh, that was a weird dream. And that's when I started, shortly after, I started seeing a little one floating around.
What the hell? So...
Yeah, exactly. What the hell?
Yeah.
Am I special? Oh, yeah, I'm special. Remember, my window was the cleanest one on the bus, but I'm not that special.
Yeah.
So it's basically, it told me that, well, we're going to be camping out here for a little bit. And that's when things really started ramping up last year. I mean, my wife's seen something drinking out of the water dish or checking out the water dish that I've got for the for some animals. She thought that it was one of our dogs that had gotten out because it was the size of a Great Pyrenees kind of down there drinking. Well, she goes and she checks to see if our dogs are out. Nope, they're all there. She swears up and down that she's seen one drinking out or checking out the water dish. And I'm not going to doubt her. She's had a lot of things that have happened, stalking and, glimpses, things like that happen. The weird part is when she's doing chores, twice now, my parents live near where our livestock barn is. And twice now, my parents are in bed sleeping, and this is like early in the morning when she's doing chores. She heard my mother scream, like yelling.
Yeah.
But it was coming from a different direction. Well, mind you, we've got these guard dogs. So these guard dogs were paying extra close attention to my wife in the barn, staying a little closer to her. Mm-hmm. A couple ran out, barked, and turned around and came right back in. And they all stuck right to her just like glue. So that definitely creeped her out. And then this spring, we've got one dog that doesn't get along with another dog. This was, once again, my parents were sleeping. We're doing chores in the morning. And it was like my father. It was his voice yelled from like 10, 15 feet away, right across the driveway. In the woods, yelled in a real loud, firm voice, hey! Like he was getting after the dog or getting after the other dog, because there was two dogs that were kind of quarreling a little bit.
Your dad's voice.
And my dad's voice and my mother's voice, exact replicas.
That's so creepy.
That got an immediate phone call. Honey, get over here. It's here. Get here right now. My poor wife was about in tears when I got over there to the barn. As soon as I stepped out of the house, I could smell it.
Shit.
I had that smell that it hit me. I'm going, oh, I know what the problem is. So I'm just beating feet over there. I'm like, whatever. I mean, I'll deal with whatever I run into. I get there and there's nothing there. But she was so shaken up by that it affected her for several days. It was so close and so loud and so exact.
No doubt. It would affect me for a lot longer than a few days.
Well, remember, we've got stuff happening where it's almost it's a daily occurrence. It's almost like, okay, what's going to happen tonight? My daughter has had finger taps, something tapping at her windows, or tapping on the walls. She's seen stuff. One of the things that I really do appreciate is once the stuff started happening and I realized what was going on, I started talking to my immediate family. And so everybody knows what's happening and what to do and what not to do. You know, like my daughter's not allowed out of the house at night. It's just real simple. You just stay inside.
Good.
My youngest, just the other night, and this one here has got me scratching my head here. So just the other night, my youngest, he was sitting on the steps watching the dog. Dog's laying out in the driveway. Now the dog is kind of clueless some days. I tease my wife that she should have been a stripper in a past life, or maybe was, because it's just a clueless dog. But it's laying there facing the opposite direction, and there was something moving in the trees 50 feet away from my youngest. This just happened 2 days ago, and he stays close to me. He doesn't go anywhere. It's kind of really messed with him a little bit.
No doubt.
It would be like he described it to me as a 6-foot guy, 7-foot guy, bent over with your butt sticking up in the air like a foot higher than what your shoulders would be crawling along.
Oh, creepy.
Yes, very, very creepy. His description kind of reminds me of what I seen one night as I was coming home getting on the expressway. Just at the edge of my headlights, it kind of fits the dog man thing. Once you accept one thing, not saying you have to accept everything else, but you have to give everything else credence, because what's true and what's not true.
Yeah. Yes, so, especially when you got thousands of people seeing it.
Yeah. So I seen this thing that, kind of fits the dog man description. And I don't dare tell him what I think it was. I'm just kind of like, yeah, what do you think it was? And he goes, the closest description that he could come up with was it looked like a corrupted human.
Wow.
Now, where he got these words from in his thought, I don't know, but he kept describing it kind of like that classic young dog man, kind of moving with the haunches up, the little shorter arms. I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. But the part that has got me creeped, has got me kind of a little bit spooked, is our activity in the last couple months has died right off. So here we're going from almost daily to pretty much nothing. And now this thing shows up. So yes. Are these things correlated with each other?
Or are they coming and going from the same place, random times, not related with each other?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I don't necessarily like this new trend. Let me put it that way. I'd rather have the hairy man running around than these things. We've never had anything malicious happen. I've been working at the shop late at night. Last fall, I was doing welding. I was fixing an exhaust pipe, and lights are on, welder's going, and you get around one side of the vehicle, and you get this pressure like something's really watching you, and you go around the other side, and it goes away. So I started playing a game. Okay, what is this? Is this me, or is there something else? So I kept walking around, and it was weird because it would go away and it'd come back. It'd go away and it'd come back.
What kind of guns you got?
So, we have things that'll make things dead. I don't have anything that is like these. I don't have any 300 Ultra Mags, but we have things that can make things go away.
That's good. The kids know how to use them?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Absolutely. they know how to make things work.
Right.
You know,
So
the thing is I have guns with me because, well, I live in the woods. I hate woodchucks. I hate coons. The cats go and keep the mice and the chipmunks away. But I've always got a firearm around. So I don't think they're necessarily afraid of them because they're always around me.
well,
I've always got a bang stick somewhere.
Well, they probably know that you're
deer.
well, they probably know that you're not intently trying to seek them out to blow their head off.
I think you hit a huge nail on the head right there.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of credence of validity to that point. You know, I don't care. I mean, I really don't care. I talk to them when they start creeping me out. I start talking to them like, "Hey, knock it off. Hey, why are you doing this?" You know, there was a tree that would always creep me out. And finally, one day, I just started talking to him. I'm like, I've been here for a long time. You probably have been too. I don't care what you do. As long as you leave everybody alone, we're fine. We got no issues. And, you know, I just started talking to them, and things kind of started calming down as far as the fear of walking by this one tree was. The funny part is that tree later got blown down in a storm. Nothing. I walk by that tree all the time, and it's just another stick in the woods.
Weird.
But that tree was hollow.
Oh.
That tree was hollow, which is why it broke over and fell down. But
How big was it?
yeah. So, 4 foot oak tree.
Oh.
It was a red oak, and yeah, it's probably it's all of 3 foot across.
Okay.
All of 3 foot, probably closer to 4.
So not a monster.
Not a monster by definition, but still a good sized tree.
Yeah, good chunk of wood for sure.
You or I, we could slide up there inside of the hollow part.
Huh.
It might not be a spot where you'd want to stay for too long, but you can fit in there.
Right. Have you ever had any contact with any of those researcher groups or types or anything like that? Anybody come out there?
Oh no. No, right. God, no. I don't want anything. I don't want anything to do with those. I don't want anything to do with people like those. They're just nope.
Gotcha. Just keep it.
Fuck them with a bent rusty T-post.
Gotcha.
Because all they're doing, and the worst part is if you look on YouTube, that is the worst thing about this. Is there's so many examples of stupidity on YouTube. It is more for that clickbait, that entertainment value. Not, okay, guys, there is stuff that's really going on. My children should be terrified, but because of me understanding what's going on and being able to talk to them, now they are able to accept what's around with them and, for lack of better words, exist with them.
Gotcha.
Coexist. You know, I just kind of hate that word coexist, but it kind of fits here because we don't bother them and they don't bother us.
Well, you know what kind of bothers me is like we'll have, you know, young nieces and nephews out here at this property. They're not allowed out in the yard without the guard dog, period. But my rule, and then but even with Sarah, like I can't let when I got Sarah in the woods getting trail cameras or hunting or whatever, I don't let her go very far from me. I just can't do it because unfortunately my brain pictures. Sometimes I'll picture the worst. You know what I mean? Like, you know, if you turn, okay, I'm just gonna go for a pee. I'm just gonna go for a pee over there. Okay, and then I'll picture turning around. She's gone. What are you gonna do then? You know what I mean?
Well, that's it, and that's where the youngest one. I don't let him roam the woods like I did when I was his age.
Yeah. Well, how could you? I couldn't do it.
What's that?
I couldn't do it either. It's like when I look at the shit that we did growing up. I'm 12 years old. I would get up in the dark an hour and a half before seeing light at 12 years old, and I'd go into those woods, and I wouldn't come back until dark. My poor mother, I can't believe I put her through that shit. But right now, me, I would never let a kid, I wouldn't let Sarah do that, you know? Now that I know what I know.
Well, that's just it. And that's the stuff that I did as a kid. You know, I'd wander off in the dark. I mean, sunrise is coming. Nah, screw it. I'm outside already. I might be out in the woods, going and digging a foxhole or camping somewhere or just going and playing with a tree, or doing whatever kids do, playing in the creek. I had one of the better childhoods growing up. I like to think. I got to do whatever I wanted to do in the woods.
Yeah.
Mud, water, sticks, trees, whatever.
Yeah. I had a guy email into me, and same thing, rural family, few kids, and he said the worst part of it for him, after seeing what he saw, he goes, Steve, I'm the worst frickin' dad on the planet now. He goes, I can't let my kids out of my sight in the backyard. I can't do it, and I have to have a gun with me. And I'm like, shit.
But that's where you can't let the fear control you.
Right? Well, look at people. You got to look at.
That's
easier said than done with the majority of the human beings, right?
I get the guy's fear. I really do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't let the fear control you, because what else is out there floating around? And I'm going to go and jump off topic here a little bit, but if you look at some of these Hollywood movies and kind of think about them a little bit, there's a couple that really come to mind that make me think a little bit on occasion. Men in Black, where there's a couple lines where they say, about the average person can, where one person can handle things, but the population as a whole is stupid, and it. Yeah, they are. And they talk about these little beings running around, and they living among us, and you got to wonder how much of that stuff really was made up.
Well, that's the thing, right?
I can't help but think about that stuff on occasion, and the fact that we are just a little peon in the universe.
Yeah.
Or the other one that it's a little kids movie, but that Monsters Inc., where they are collecting screams.
Collecting what?
Have you ever seen Monsters Inc.? It's a little kids movie where these little monsters jump out and they scream, and they are collecting the screams to go and power their own little world.
Oh, that's kind of creepy.
And then a couple monsters get tired of scaring kids, so then they start making them laugh, and it generates more power.
No, I haven't watched it, but when I hear that storyline, it's kind of creepy.
Well, as dumb as it is, I can't help but think about that on occasion. Are they trying to collect our fear for some reason? Is our fear an energy source to them?
Maybe, possibly.
I don't know. Like I said, nothing makes sense about this stuff. Nothing makes sense. Why else would they scare you? So, myself, what I do when I start getting creeped out or scared is either I start talking to them, or I really fight that fear to not let myself be afraid.
Yeah.
I know it's easier said than done, but if you've got daily practice at it, it starts to become where just the hair on the back of your neck stands up, and you're like, leave me the fuck alone. I'm just going here. And then that fear subsides, and I go about whatever I'm doing. Whether I'm welding underneath the pickup in the middle of the night with them staring at me, or if, I was on a job, and this stuff doesn't happen just here where I live. This has happened all around the state. On that, I've had a couple spots where I've been a couple hours north where it's happened, and then I've been way farther south down in Indiana one time. I was standing there on the edge. Well, let me back up here. I was doing a job down there, and it was a couple-year project. Earlier, I'd been sitting there working and kept feeling that, like the landowner sneaking around the woods, checking up on me, someone's looking at me, whatever. I don't care if someone watches me. I really don't care.
Right.
But I kept looking around, and I couldn't find anything.
Mm.
And then it kind of dawned like, I have, what do I call them? It was my observer. I had an observer. I think that I had one there watching me. So I can't really prove it, But the following year, I was down there working on another spot on the river, just farther on downstream. As I'm standing out there looking at this, the guy standing right there with me, and this rock, soccer ball size, come flying out the corner of my eye. It come out into the middle of the river. The river is about 100 feet wide, and there was a box elder tree that had fallen down, and they push off these little shoots. Well, these shoots are so weak they can't even hold up their own leaves. They have a tendency to droop. Well, this rock ticked the edge of those leaves, so it's like it was meant to hit the edge of these things, and it comes down, and that rock hit that water, and if you ever threw a rock off a bridge, you know what it sounds like.
Yeah.
It had that kersh-bloosh sound to it, and you can tell it's a big rock or a small rock. So this rock just plows right down in the river and splashes. And the guy standing next to me looks over, and he goes, "What was that?" I said, "Oh, it's just a coon going and doing a cannonball off the top of that branch over there." And so this guy's looking at it, and he goes, "How would a coon get out there?" I don't know. So he's watching the water, waiting for the coon to come up.
Oh my God.
So as this guy's figuring it out, I instantly spun and I looked back at it, back in the direction the rock came from. I said, "I'm just here to go and pull out a log jam." And so that threw off the guy. That was in the meantime where I told him that it was a coon doing a cannonball. But I'm just here to go and then pull out a log jam. And the guy's kind of looking at me. I go, "Yeah, it was just a coon going and doing a cannonball off there." And he's looking for it to come up. And he goes, "Well, it couldn't support it out there." I said, No, it couldn't. It was probably something else. And then the guy was lost and confused. But their tendency to try not to educate those that don't know, because you might as well go and beat your head against the board all day, because it'll do about as much good.
Yeah, true.
If someone generally goes, and asks a legitimate question or has a real interest, I'll talk about it all day. I've got a couple brothers who know better than to think that I'm lying or making this stuff up, but being brothers, they want to harass the shit out of you.
Sure.
Because they're scared, because they don't want to admit to it.
Yeah.
And stuff. So, I don't want to deal with that on a daily basis. I got to deal with another stuff. I just one less level. So a lot of times I kind of push it off. But on that same project, I've been out there working, and I'm working underneath trees. And if I think a tree is kind of weak or something, I reach up with the machine and push on it, because I don't want the tree falling on me when I'm working underneath it. I had a maple tree. It was probably 18 inches across, give or take. I'd walked around the tree a couple times. Didn't think too much of it. Pushed on it because it wasn't the healthiest tree, but it pushed back the roots on the ground. And like, nope, this tree's good. I don't have to worry about it. And I'd walked around it. I got finished with the project, and I was actually angling the trees in the stream to go and divert water flow away from the bank. I'm hooking the chains up to my boat to lift it out. I'm all done as I hear this tree popping and is being pushed my way. It just, when you push over trees in the woods, you kind of get that hear and that feel. I push over thousands of trees, so it's just like me reaching up there with the machine and pushing it over. As this tree's popping and snapping and coming right back at my way, it just missed me, and it kind of diverted out in the river to make sure that it wouldn't hit me. And I'm like, "Hey, the tree's off. You could have brought that angle over a little bit more." So I had to go back and move the damn tree. But these fucking things that push down trees. And I'm just like, "Hey, I'm done. You got to go and find me over at the next spot I was going to." Sure shit, I'm out there working, and I've got the same feeling of something watching me out there. It's just anymore. I don't know. I just deal with it. I just think it's just like another Tuesday.
Sounds like it. Holy shit! I wonder if it's. I got a funny feeling it's the same. I think it's the same person following you around. If I had to guess.
I don't know.
Or whatever you want to call them.
Same group, same one. I don't know. I mean, I've been working down in, it was on the edge of a high-rent subdivision, and it's very similar shape. and color to the big dark one that was watching me across the field. And here he's right next to a multi-million-dollar house.
Mm.
I'm working along. I look up, and I'm like, something's watching me. I look up. Oh, there it is. I look back down. I look up, and it was gone. I'm like, oh,
Shit.
yeah, that wasn't the shadow off a tree. The sun, it didn't move. The branches, they didn't blow there. You know, and I keep looking back at that same spot for, like, the rest of the day going, and it never once was able to go and repeat that dark spot. You know, just on the edge of a nice clear of a nice clear view. So yeah, the fact they follow me around, yeah, probably. I don't know. Whatever.
Have you ever
try not to think about it.
all right, have you ever felt the need, or have you ever tried to tell them to stay off your property or leave you alone?
I did tell them one day that they need to stop harassing my wife and my children, to not be so aggressive, you know, just to try to, you know, just basically, if you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone.
Right.
If you touch my family or scare them, you know, you're not going to like what's going to happen next.
Yeah. And then what
You know,
what happened after that?
They kind of weren't getting harassed quite as much, but it's things, the way they happen is in such a way that it's hard to quantify it.
Right.
And sometimes you have to wonder if it's just in your head, because you know, there's nothing about this topic that makes fucking sense.
Yeah.
I know we got DNA studies and we got this and we got that, and I just, okay, for those people, they're able to figure that out, which is great. For me, nothing still makes sense. I mean, have I accepted that this stuff is there? Absolutely.
Right.
Have I seen orbs, you know, lights in the sky? Oh yeah, I've seen some weird shit. But it's anymore, like I say, it's just like, whatever. It is what it is. You know, I had a guy tell me one time, and he's so right. God put us on this earth to do something. We may never, ever know what that something is. But we were put on this earth to do something. You know, so I kind of look at it as, when it's my time, it's my time. I should have died several times already.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I rolled a tractor over, and I was pinned underneath it, and I've got scars on my body that I have never figured out how I got in that position.
Ouch.
And was not killed type thing. So I've got scars on my side that shouldn't be there, but yet I was trapped in such a way. So the tractor laid on top of me where I was pinned in there. I should have died that day. I really, really should have.
Right.
You know, and the way that I reached down, you know, to go and shut it off as it was coming over, I should have died.
Gotcha.
So right there taught me at a very young age that we do have guardian angels.
Without a doubt.
I was protected.
Without a doubt.
I was protected that day.
I hope we find out who later on.
I don't know. I've kind of entertained, you know, was it one of my ancestors, you know, was it my, you know, what is your guardian angel? I don't know what it is, but I know that my guardian angel on occasion has to work its ass off. When I hit that gas main, how it didn't blow, I don't know, but it was, that was one of those days, but you know, that, which I'd rather go and do again versus being up there in the barn again, because that's fucking spooky shit.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to experience that again. But the point is there is things out there. Someone tells you that there's not, they've just got cobwebs in between their ears. I was working on a project here a few years ago, and I was dumping some rock across a high wall on a riverbank, building it up. I had the area taped off, fenced off, machines blocking access. Yes, there was people around, but I had taken every precaution to make sure nothing was there. I'm coming in with a loader, and I had, I don't know, 4 ton of rock in my bucket, and I reached over to dump the rock down over this bank, and I stopped and I backed up. I'm like, why the fuck did I back up? I pulled forward to dump that rock. I stopped and I backed up. I did that 4 times.
What?
The 4th time that I backed up, I looked out and I seen a little kid pool floaty toy. I'm like, all right, what's going on here? Why do I keep backing up? My youngest, he was in the loader with me as we're doing this, and he's like, Dad, what's that? I seen it at the same time. There was a little kid's like pool floaty thing with a water bottle. It was the water bottle is what got me. Why would there be a water bottle in this little floaty thing? So I got out and I come around and I'm looking, and there was a little boy underneath me where I was going to dump that rock.
No frickin' way. Oh my God.
And that still gives me chills.
Ugh, no shit.
Still gives me chills. Because I would have dumped that bucket of rock, gone back and got about 6 or 10 more, and then I would have started moving that rock.
Oh God.
And then I would have found him, pieces of him as I'm pulling that rock out. Because this is big rock. We're not talking little stones.
Yeah.
We're talking, 24-inch rock.
Gotcha. Everybody would have been destroyed.
Oh yeah, it would have just been absolutely just to think about what had happened. Just I don't know. I don't want to think about that anymore.
Yeah.
But the point is, something made me back up.
There you go. Your sixth sense, intuition, call it what you want. Your guts, whatever it is.
Something made me back up.
Yeah.
Was that a guardian angel? Was that a feeling? Was it sixth sense? I don't know what you want to call it, but something made me back up.
Yeah.
And that's where I say there is stuff out there that we can't explain. These stupid fucking researchers worrying about a mid-tarsal break or if we can get a whoop and a holler. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There is things out there that we are on Earth with. That is what matters. It's not what you think it is or it's not. Half that stuff, I swear they make it. I swear that they make it up.
Well, after a while in the beginning,
they can go and get clickbait and stupid crap like that.
Yeah. Well, that's why that's sort of my motivation for me to come out. Is like I'm just sick and tired of the bullshit and watching the bullshit, the intentional bullshit to keep everybody going in circles, right? I mean, they couldn't have done.
Exactly.
They couldn't have the so-called past big names, many of them. They couldn't do a better job to discredit this topic and make a joke out of it. They couldn't have done a better job.
Exactly. Exactly. They have done more harm than they have done so much harm to this.
Yeah.
That the general population, if you say a hairy man, they go hee hee ha ha. No, you stupid people. I have got a buddy, and he goes, "You're the guy that we could go and drop off in the middle of the wilderness, and you would come out with a Bigfoot skull and bear claws wrapped around your neck." And I'm going, yeah, possibly. I'm not saying that I would, but it's a possibility. But if you're out in the wilderness, if you're out paying attention in the real world, like I said, I've seen these things right on the edges of town. I've been in a city. I mean, with that rock throwing there. There's a pretty good sized population all around me. This is in northern Indiana. There's a lot of people around there. It doesn't matter where you're at. Something is out there with you, whether you can see it or not.
Something else is going on right alongside of us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a shitty thing.
So is this a hairy man all the time? But this is where, if you look at some of the other things, there's a couple of guys out there, and I think what they're doing is a good thing. One of them, it's a little darker, sinister approach. He's from up there in Alaska. And then there's another guy that you've actually sat down with. Both of those guys' approaches are very similar to yours. It's kind of like, okay, this is what's going on. But if you look at the different regions of the world and the way that things are transpiring, everything's not the same. There is many different varieties. I have had, for the most part, pleasant encounters, and then you got people who've just been scared to the point where, they were hit. I think that you had a girlfriend where they were running right alongside of them. And I think they're not all the same.
I know, and then
they're not all the same. Are they all the same creature, or are they different things? I don't know. I think that they're all different.
There's a lot of different things going on. There's a lot of different beings, entities, creatures, hybrids, whatever you want to call them. There's definitely a smorgasbord going on out there. But it's just like that group in Russia. Remember that group of campers in Russia years back that's documented that some had their tongues ripped out?
Oh, my. That is something else.
Yeah.
I mean,
what did that?
Your imagination run wild, but if you know about this topic, you can't help but think about this topic is intertwined with it.
Yeah. So knowing what you know now and the confusion, like I look at myself like I've been a dog in a cage for the most of my life, and it's equivalent of that. It's like being raised in a box, and all of a sudden you're shown the sunlight little bit by little bit by little bit until you finally realize, oh my God, I've been missing out on the whole frickin' thing all this time. Shit. You know what I mean? So as you come to realize and accept what's going on in a way, but my one question is, what if you could get a couple questions asked? What's the biggest mystery to you right now when it comes to this topic?
Well, that's an interesting question. What's one of the biggest things? Okay, I guess probably one of the biggest things that I am a Christian. I believe in God.
Right.
You can't. For me to look at this world and not think that there is a intelligent creation, whatever you want to assign the name or the fixture, whatever, it doesn't matter. I want to know. I guess what I would really want to know is: are these things good or bad, or what is the reason behind these beings? Are these, for lack of better words, devils, or are they angels?
Right.
Which side of the spectrum are they? Is dwelling on this, is this something that is, I don't want to get preachy here, but is it like letting the devil in, for lack of better words? I'm choosing those words because it's something that someone else could understand. I'm trying not to let anybody get triggered by it, but it's just, where is this coming from? Is this coming from good, or is this evil, or is it something in between? Is it like a purgatory where, I don't know. I guess that is my biggest question is what is the real reason behind all this stuff? Where, what is their background? What is their makeup? What is their reason for interacting the way they are?
Yeah. That's a pretty good mystery. That's a pretty good question. I'm not sure what mine is. Right now, mine changes the time. Like, right now, I'm a little more frustrated. Like, why do you guys get to drink the water and breathe the air and run around and not pay to do it? But I have to.
Piss me upon taxes.
Right?
We get taxed so bad, it's stupid. It drives me nuts. And the worst part is so much of our money is wasted. And we're you're talking about a dog. Here we are we're slaving like a dog just so that someone else can go and take all of our labor and give it to something that, or keep it, because they're too lazy to work. I'm sorry. I love helping people. When I help someone, though, I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be recognized, but I don't want to support you. I'm trying to support myself. I love helping people, but I don't like to support people.
Yeah, we could crack that open and talk for another 5 days on that. We're on the same page, but yeah, it's just
5 days, hell, a week.
I'm tired of the bullshit myself. Like, I've had it up to the nuts. I've had it up to the nuts with the bullshit.
I'm tired of it too.
All of it.
Just sick of it.
Yeah. So, and being aware that what we got going on is absolutely wrong as a whole. What we got going on in society today is definitely 100% the wrong route. But aside from that, it's just very frustrating. It's very frustrating to realize 100% for sure all of this shit is going on around us. We don't know what or why, but it is. That's a piss off. And the fact that we have to live with all of this we have to live with this bullshit system, this bullshit way of life, and there seems to be no escape for us. But meanwhile, these hairy bastards get to run around doing whatever they want to do. And we don't. It's like, it's not fair. Come on, I want to join the team.
Exactly. I am tired of being told that I have to eat this turd sandwich, and the only choice I have is which end am I going to pick it up from?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but
how about none of it? Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's frustrating. You look back at our ancestors and you go, was life actually better back then, or was it worse? In some respects, I think it was better. In some respects, I think that was worse. And what is our children's future going to be like? Where do these hairy creatures fit in? Are we going to have more of them? Are they going to be less of them? Are we going to have other entities that are going to be becoming stronger? I don't know. There's just so many unknowns that at the end of the day, I don't want to think about it because I'd just go and drive myself crazy.
I know. That's another thing too, right? It's like, got to pick and choose your battles between your ears while we're here, It gets kind of frustrating, but everything's frustrating right now. Well, not overly. I mean, I make sure, that's why I always encourage people, make sure you do what you love to do. Make sure you do what you love to do. Above all.
Well, that's very good advice, and I've been trying to do that a little bit more, and just spending time with my kids, just whether it's going out and walking or teaching them to go and use things that go bang, or just spending quality time with them at the end of the day.
Yeah. And then
teach them something, teach them as much as you can.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm thankful that I've been able to understand this topic as much as I am, so I can teach my children how to deal with this stuff.
Well, that's another thing too, right? Like sometimes I'll argue with myself the amount of time that I put into trying to spread truth and encourage truth and squash out the evil bastards. And I'm thinking, well, I guess we're definitely making somewhat of a difference. So I wonder what it's going to be like a couple generations for now, if there still is a couple generations in a couple generations. But in another generation from now, I wonder how much more bold talking about the truth is going to be.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I have an offhanded way of trying to figure out how people feel about this topic. A lot of times I just joke with them and say, yeah, as long as Bigfoot leaves me alone, I will have a good day, or I'll say something stupid like that. It's kind of surprising. You'll get someone who kind of goes, are you serious or are you joking? A lot of the shallow-minded ones who don't think much, they just go hee ha ha, and they go on. But every once in a while, you'll get someone who'll go, well, and that's when you go, oh shit, what can of worms did I open now? Well, just recently I ran into a guy, and he's never talked about this, and he's never really put a lot of thought into it. As a kid, he grew up in the swamp, and he would hear some sounds, and I don't really know how to describe them, whether it was like, people describe about the woman screaming or just some weird sounds that don't make sense. Because the guy grew up in the woods, so he knows all the animals and things like that, and then he goes, well, I would go and find deer hanging in the tree every so often, like 10 feet off the ground. And I kind of giggled. I said, what puts those up there, don't you? Just kind of being a smart ass. And he goes, yeah, I think I do. But he didn't really think about the hairy man running around, but he did. But he didn't really put a whole lot of thought into it, going, there is stuff out there that goes bump in the night. It's not just this pristine, empty world anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that more people getting that memory jogged or thinking about that, you will raise awareness. There is more awareness out there, I think.
Oh,
just because
absolutely.
Of this stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I don't know if it's all healthy awareness.
I don't know. Time's going to tell, I guess. But you know what? For me, I'd rather know than not know. And for me too, it's like, well, I'd probably feel a whole lot better. I think I'm going to feel better in the end, as long as I told my truth and shared the knowledge that I got, and everybody else could do with it what they want or not. At least I told you. I didn't keep it inside and hidden from you.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to be said about that. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yeah, you know what? I would be pissed right off if I didn't have a clue about this shit. And then my neighbor had stuff. And my neighbor had stuff going on right on the other side of my fence and didn't tell me. And then I found out the hard way. I'd be pretty pissed off. So that's what encourages.
Absolutely.
That encourages me to keep going too, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's funny you say that because my neighbor, I got joking about it one day, and he goes, "Well, I haven't seen anything, but I keep getting this smell." And this was when it was pretty active around here, for lack of better words. And let's put it this way: we should have thousands of skunks running around based upon all the smells that we have.
Oh, yeah, right.
And he goes, "Yeah, there's something around here," and and he talks about a house spirit that he has living in his house, and and he's had a few things at night that just don't add up. So I guess what I'm saying is the neighbors, your neighbors, if you're having stuff, your neighbors may also know too. They just, whether or not they want to be thought as crazy to you or not, I guess is what it comes down to.
Yeah, well, it's actually my actual neighbor, who's lived here for 2 generations right next door. He, when we first meeting him, and then his kids, had to eventually tell him about the YouTube thing and stuff, and then he didn't even blink an eye. He goes, "Oh yeah, a couple guys that worked for me, they saw one jump in front of their truck on the Banfield Road there last year. Red one, just like that."
Nice.
Yeah, it's like, but now that I've found out, the shit's been going on around where I live right here immediately around the house for a long time. A lot. But it is what it is, just like your place.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I kind of wonder, why do we have these hot spots of activity? Why is that? Is it because of something in the ground? Is it because of the trees?
I don't know. We got a man who has been digging for over 30 years and traveled a lot of the world looking into this, and he has recently, I can't quote this exactly, but he has come up to some kind of a pattern that goes with the electromagnetic ley lines around the globe are starting to line up with a lot of this shit too, apparently, allegedly. Not that makes any sense to me, but I probably didn't even make sense repeating it, but it was somewhere around those lines that he's come up with, and this guy's been digging. Holy shit, he's been digging.
Are these lines moving? Are they always moving like our, like the magnetic lines, how they shift around a little bit?
I don't know.
Is that what it is? They're moving?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and find that email again and read the whole thing. 'Cause, God, man, the amount of emails that I get and the shit that I try to retain between my ears is phenomenal, right? Every single day I'm getting.
I can only remember so much.
Yeah, but there's always those the items that stick out for myself, and I just put them on a shelf in the back of my brain until somebody else says something to refire up that topic again.
That's a fascinating thought, because where that one tree was, where I would always get creeped out at, that blew down, there's a lot of quartz in the clay.
Oh yeah.
And I was doing some work around it one day, and the machine was acting a little bit weird, because I've got alternators and so it's electrically driven controls, and the radio acts weird, and it's just acting really odd in that one spot.
That's weird, but that's common, right? That's common. People's phones shutting off, compasses spinning around, all sorts of weird shit. But it seems to accompany it.
Well, that's just it. Does it have to do with water, or does it have to do with the ground?
Right, I don't know. Does it have to do with... Oh, yeah, the questions are nonstop, but the more people keep talking, though, the more we keep talking, the more it's going to come to the surface, obviously.
Well, the more questions you ask, the more questions you'll have.
Yeah, true.
If you're asking questions, you're thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
So is thinking about this topic a bad thing? That's you're asked about questions, and I can't help but wonder if thinking about this topic is good or detrimental for you.
Well, the thing is, how many of us you just get a slap in your face, and you get a slap in your face a couple times a year. Well, I'm not asking for it. I'm not looking for it. You know what I mean? Even when I go in the woods, just like you, I say, just leave me alone, man. I just want to go hunt. I just want to go fish. Leave me alone. I don't give a shit about your ass. Leave me alone. But still,
I'm just here to work. I'm just here to do this.
Yeah, we still get, but still,
I don't care about you.
Yeah, but you still get the shit going down. Doesn't matter what you say, you still get it going down, like I do, like you do. You know what I mean? So it's not like I can't pick it up and leave it because it's still in my face a couple times a year.
No, that is a good way to think about it. You don't have a choice in the matter. You just have to deal with it.
Yeah, well, and then doing what I'm doing, I haven't a frickin' clue. I mean, I always laugh with Sarah. I go, if you told me I was going to be doing this shit 10 years ago, I would have laughed my frickin' head off.
If you told me that I was going to be talking to some guy from over in British Columbia about something that most people don't understand, I'd go, yeah, right.
Yeah, hairy naked dudes in the forest, right? Yeah, we talk about that shit all the time. I just wanted to grow up. All the time growing up is, man, when I become big and strong, I just want to talk about hairy naked guys every day. That's all I want to do.
said no normal person ever.
Yeah, said nobody, except maybe Caitlyn Jenner or somebody. I don't know, whatever.
And a chick trapping dick. Yeah. You don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah. Anyway, we better get off the phone before we go too far south from the topics.
Yeah, it's too bad that you're that far away, because it'd be nice if you were my neighbor, because I think we could have interesting discussions probably about every other night for the rest of our lives.
I could solve all the world's problems for sure on a daily basis.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. On a daily basis we could solve the world's
problems. But I got to get going out of the shop into the house and get my butt in there for dinner. I'm going to have some more problems I'm going to have to solve here in a minute.
Give me the tapeworm. Yeah. Be hungry.
Yeah. But anyways, I appreciate you coming on, man, and talking openly about this shit. Big time.
Well, and I just want to thank you for everything that you've done, for just bringing awareness to a topic that most people would think was nuts, and the approach that you've done this. I'm not trying to be pandering, so don't take it that way, but I just want to thank you, because the way that you do this is in such a way that you're not trying to insult everyone's intelligence or just trying to make a joke out of this. Some of this YouTube stuff where it's just, I can't even watch 30 seconds of it anymore, because they just try to make this big scary thing about it. And you're actually bringing legitimacy to an actual situation that people do need to know about. If you were thrust into a situation like this and had no idea what to expect, I can see how you would pee your pants and never go back out there in the woods ever again.
Oh, yeah.
For the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah.
And that's wrong. I'm sorry, that's wrong. What about the poor parents with their kids out there on the camping trip, and all of a sudden shit's going down and sideways, and you're in there shaking like a leaf versus going, okay, I remember there was some weird guy and there was some other asshole and they were talking about this, but if you say leave me alone, that it may help. So the guy shouts out, leave me alone, just let me be, and all of a sudden things calm down, whether it's in his head or for real. Now we just help somebody.
Yeah.
And that I think is a huge crime of what these other yahoos are doing to the subject.
Oh, big time. But yeah, appreciate the kind words, man. They're definitely not going to stop. Can't stop. It's not possible now.
Yeah. This is something I would have never done.
Yeah. Especially since those old buttholes wanted me to shut up and stop me so badly. It's kind of like, uh-oh, did you guys ever just screw yourselves?
Well, I'm glad that I'm glad that you are on the good guy team, and you're just the asshole that we all need.
I'm the bad rash.
Someone's got to be.
I gotta get that T-shirt made. I'm the bad rash.
That'd be funny.
That would be a good one. That would be a good one. I am the bad rash. F you. Anyway. All right, it's dinner time. Time to go inside, man.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, and have a pleasant evening. And look forward to hearing more from you and what everybody else's thoughts are.
Yeah. Appreciate you coming on, man. And if anything changes, obviously, make sure you get a hold of me and give me some heads up if you get any, some kind of knowledge dump that changes a lot. Let me know about it.
Will do. I got no idea what to think because, my mind is just blown about this whole topic in the first place. So
I know. Well, I'm just saying, things are changing seemingly rapidly, so you never know. I'm just saying, some shit comes down the pipe. Let me know about it.
Most definitely. Well, thank you, sir. You have a pleasant evening.
Okay, thank you too, man.
Look forward to talking to you later.
You too. Be safe out there, man. Thanks.
Yep, you too.
Later. There we go. Somebody who's accepted what's going on in their reality, right? They just accepted it. They're living alongside of it. Sounds like quite the character, right? Sounds like a real good, solid, good man, good family man. Thank God I didn't dump those rocks in that child. Holy shit, that made me cringe. Ugh. But there you go. Another club member. Another human being that's accepted the reality and the truth of what the hell's going on. Crazy. I wonder who's next. I like these conversations. I'm loving this. Love it. I believe I'm doing this again. Tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Sarah's going at it like a fiend. She's getting people lined up here like crazy, so I'm looking forward to talking to more people and sharing the conversations here. And I really, really appreciate people like this man here and all of you. So let's keep the ball rolling, keep talking truth and not being scared. And I got to go in and get some dinner. Been quite the day over here. Share my story at howtohunt.com. If you don't want to talk to me here, that's fine. But if you got some truth you want shared with the people, with the world, this isn't a bad place to do it. All right? Share my story at howtohunt.com. And I will definitely be back tomorrow. Later.